So 2019 turned out to be not a great year. We very sadly had to say goodbye to two key family members. One furry and sadly and very unexpectedly one not furry, and they both took a lot of getting used to. The garden as well was a complete disaster. I've tried for 15 years to work this plot, but I mean it's well over 1,000 feet high, and the summer being what it was last year, despite masses of back-baking work, including doing 11 rows of potatoes, it produced next to nothing. So I think the time has come to say goodbye to it. The one thing 2019 taught me was do what you love, regardless of what other people think, because one day you might not have time to do anything. So with that in mind, and on a positive note, 2020, we are having a new and lower down garden plot. Now the old garden plot was really high up, and it was a couple of fields away from the house, uphill, quite a steep uphill, so pushing a wheelbarrow and stuff, it kept you fit, but it was quite a long haul up there. And last summer it barely got above zero. It was never very productive, though I tried my best. So the new plot now is next to the house. It's actually a site where for 12 years myself, my husband and 5 children lived in a mobile home where we sorted out a house, which proves you don't need as much room as you think. We actually had quite a good time there, and sometimes I do miss it. But I'm hoping I'm going to enjoy the space now as my new garden. It's more sheltered, it's slightly lower. It's still going to be challenging because it's still 1,000 feet up. We live in the mountains, so it's never going to be tropical. With that in mind, and because we have so much wildlife, it's surrounded by trees. I'll show you in a minute, on a couple of sides which have got pigeons and things living in them. We get a lot of hares, a lot of rabbits. We've even had some deers in the area. So we've decided to help the garden along this year by getting some polytunnels, some basic polytunnels, to be able to protect the crops not only from the cold but also from the wildlife that wants to eat them. So this is the new area. It's not as big, obviously, as the last site, but I'm planning to try and be a bit more selective with what I grow and try and get my act together and do a lot of successional sowing and just generally being a lot more organised and trying to fill it with as much as possible. We've started putting the frames up for the polytunnels. However, we haven't put the plastic on yet, as we've sort of entered hurricane season here, I think. Sadly, as with a lot of the country, have had so much wind and water, flooding and trees down and all sorts, that we thought it was sensible to leave putting the plastic up for a little while, but it is a job we're hoping to do later on, now that we've got a glorious sunny day for a change and amazing blue sky. So we've got 2 tunnels, one slightly larger, one slightly smaller. I did try and grow some beans here at the end of last summer, but it was just so cold and it just didn't come to anything. So after a lot of hard work, my new polytunnels are up at last and they're fantastic. However, I think it might be short-lived. We've now been given weather warnings for tomorrow that says that we're going to have 50+ mile-an-hour winds, heavy rain. And I've just got this awful feeling that my polytunnels might blow away and that my dream might be short-lived, but we've got everything crossed, and if they survive this, they should survive anything. So I'm going to video them now, so at least I've got a record of how lovely they looked before the storm. So these are my 2 new polytunnels. I have a lovely big one here, take you down the side. And I've planted some, we've dug in the polythene at the bottom here, and I've planted some strawberry plants down there along the side. So that's that one. And then next to it we have a smaller one, a little walkway in the middle, which I've put some sawdust down just to try and suppress the weeds with cardboard underneath. And this is my slightly smaller tunnel. And I've made a start again on putting some strawberries down the side. here we go. This might be the shortest polytunnel garden in history. But I'll show you inside now. So this is inside the big tunnel. Feels quite cozy in here. You can definitely tell the difference with the warmth. I was hoping it would stay up long enough and I can warm the ground before I start planting in a couple of weeks' time. It's got zips on both ends, and then it's got panels at the side for ventilation that you can sort of lift the flap. So it's lovely. I really love it. And the small one obviously is just the same but a bit smaller. So there we go. So they have the 2 new polytunnels in the new growing area, and let's keep everything crossed that they're still here tomorrow or the following day and have not blown down to the next village.